Hey guys, so a lot of people think that expanding your social circle and making friends through approaching new people is easy, and they oftentimes compare this to the hard route, which is deemed cold approaching, which just means approaching strangers either in the daytime or at a bar or a nightclub or some event. And the main reason, from what I can tell, is because these are strangers and there's a higher rate of rejection because of that and possible embarrassment. Well, first off, you shouldn't be embarrassed if you get rejected, so that's out of the question. And second off, in comparison, yeah, in a lot of ways, approaching coldly with no knowledge of who this guy is in the daytime or at a nightclub is much harder in a lot of ways. But at the same time, you can't just pigeonhole that expanding your social circle is easy. And I think the main reason is because most people don't actually actively try and expand their social circle. So they're like, oh, it's easy. You just be yourself. You already have friends and you will naturally gain more friends that way. That's not actually actively going out and expanding your social circle and approaching new people. That's staying in your comfort zone and living passively and just hoping that with what you have, that it will naturally give you more stuff and more stuff. And that's usually not the case. So what I'm talking about is actively using the friends you have now, or if they're bad friends, having to get rid of them and get better friends so that they are, and I'm not talking like, bad friends. I'm talking like if they're like unhealthy friends for you. You need to get rid of them and get healthy friends who aren't like mean to you or bully you, and use those friends and actively try and approach new people and develop a larger social circle. And that's so much different from what most people do, which is they passively just sit there and whoever comes their way or approaches them, they get to choose if they want to be friends, and then if they become friends, then they just passively sit there, hang out with these friends, and passively hope that maybe they'll get approached more and more because they have friends already, and then they're hoping that their social circle will grow that way. Am I pronouncing that right? Social circle. But that's not the case, because a lot of times you just passively sit there, and that was the case for me where that I tried to rely on just living life, and that didn't really warrant more friends approaching me or new strangers approaching me at school and becoming friends. So in a lot of ways, actively and not passively approaching is much harder, even in terms of just social circle friendships. And I personally think that in a lot of ways, both methods are useful, but in the long run, having friends is the best way of meeting new people, guy or girl, to be your potential girlfriend or boyfriend. There have been research studies done, and basically, by far the greatest percentage, they did like a graph, and the greatest percentage for the ways that people meet their husband or wife is through friends. I believe it was a very high percentage number, and they pretty much did a very large poll asking people on how they met their husband or wife, and the biggest way was through another friend. That was the number one highest percentage, and then things dwindled from there, and the lowest percentage was some random stuff, and in fact online dating was in fact one of the lowest. But if you look at the trend through the years, it has been dwindling slightly, because a lot of it has been coming with online dating, which has recently been invented. So slowly the amount for through friends is getting smaller, but it's still a huge amount, and it's getting smaller by such a small rate that regardless, for at least the next maybe 100 or 1,000 years, the biggest way to meet new people is through another person you already know. And I believe, I can't remember, but it was around 60 to 70% said that was how they met their husband or wife. And there have been more studies done since uh, like that. So go ahead on Google Scholar and look it up yourself if you don't believe me. But yeah, on top of that, there's a very well-known analogy between the two methods of meeting people, like approaching them or just through your social network. And it's the analogy of a farm to just sort of buying food, I guess you could say. So either farming or fishing in a way. And basically, with farming, you start off very scarce and you have to put in a lot of work every day. But over time, you start to grow a sort of snowball effect where it, what you have nets you more, and then you get a greater amount, and that greater amount nets you even more, and then that just keeps building, and you have this sort of everlasting long-term network eventually, where you just have a huge network for meeting people, and you never have any problems with meeting new people because your network is just so huge. It's very much like how farms work, and you just eventually have this huge field of crop. And compare that to fishing. Fishing, short term, you can go fishing today and maybe within an hour you can catch your fish. The problem with that is you have to start from scratch the next day. So in the short term, it seems like, yeah, you can meet new people, but again, in the long run, it's a very slow boom everyday sort of process, which you have to start over from scratch again. And in the long run, I mean, compared to the amount of crop you get from farming, fishing doesn't really compare in the long run. I mean, one fish per day, but maybe thousands of crops in the long run, it doesn't compare. Why? Because, and the big disconnect is initially, you're looking at maybe one fish per day, whereas with farming you're getting zero net gain because you have to spend all this time watering the plants and stuff. But in the long run, you gain more and more because you get more crops, and with these crops you can plant more seeds and grow more. And so this analogy might be getting a little abstract, so I'm just going to put it into concrete terms. Again, with farming is like crop, and crop is like social network friends. Once you get friends, you can get more friends, and with that you get a snowball effect, which leads to a long-term gain of a very large plethora of friends and social network that you can rely on for a long time. Whereas if you're going to the bar every night, you kind of have to start from scratch, unless it's a very local bar and your area is very like, you know, mellow. Then now I would kind of categorize that as social networking anyways. But yeah, if you're just planting, I mean, if you're just fishing every day and, you know, maybe every day at the bar you meet one new person, that's great and all, but in the long run, through social networking, you can meet maybe dozens of people per day. And again, there's a whole lot of avenues for this, so there's a lot to consider. I mean, you can meet more than one person per day at the bar, and you can meet a lot less than 12 people per day through social networking. So it really depends on exactly what level you're at in this ladder. And I really think that both methods can truly work in the long run if you put your 100% into it. You just have to go out there. I mean, even with fishing, I mean, you can get like a freaking mass fishing ship or something like that and make just as many fish. It's the same thing. Basically, what I'm saying is, if you have the passion and drive for it, you can go out whatever method and make it. But as the analogy stands, people have been saying that social networking is better, but at the same time, I mean, you can go to a bar, or you can go out in the daytime and just keep going and keep being very awesome and stuff, and meet new people, and just keep doing that until you meet a heck of a lot of new people, just as many as you could through social networking. And so I think there's a lot of benefits to both. And through social networking, you can just do a lot more in terms of long-term goals, because you know these people. These are your long-term friends, and with that, you meet new people, and you can trust these people, and you get a lot more offers and connections, because they'll constantly be hooking you up if they have some sort of event or thing nearby, so you can go to that social event and meet more people. And then it just goes down to how business people work again. Successful business people realize how this works, and that's why they have their schedules lined up constantly with events, because in these events they meet more people, they socialize, they get more connections, they establish more fruitful opportunities, and then from there they meet more and more people. On the other hand, with approaching at a bar or something like that, or a nightclub, you kind of do have to start from scratch again, but your skill level improves progressively as you do this, so you're more likely to gain a favorable interaction, either through meeting a friend or a potential girl or guy that you would like to see. And basically, as you meet these people, you gain more insight and you get more knowledge, and so in a way you can fish better as it progresses. So both ways technically work. I'll let you decide which is better. I want to talk now about social networking and just approaching in general in mainly high school and college, but you can extrapolate this to other areas. I want you to, and especially for college students, if you're starting your first semester or something, I want you, and even if you're like midway through college, you can still do this. Once school starts, I want you to join at least one club. I know a lot of people can join more, but a lot of people also are very scared to even join one. So I want you to join one club. Choose one. It doesn't have to be something you really like. In fact, I have this mentality where it's like, nothing really interests me. It's all kind of boring. I don't care. If that's the case, just choose one, even if you don't think it's going to be interesting at all. Choose one club, and I need you to make sure that it is a social club, so at least semi-social. So you can't choose something like that you know will 100% warrant you nothing, like maybe a sort of, I would say, law. Maybe you want to do pre-law club, because you're just going to walk in there, you're going to sit down, the guy up front's going to lecture, and then you're going to stay quiet, and then after the guy finishes lecturing, you're going to leave the club not having gained any sort of social result from that. And there's nothing wrong with pre-law. If you want to do that on your own time. You go ahead. I actually encourage you to join that club if you're pre-law in college. But in terms of gaining results socially, that's not what I want. I want you to join something with that's at least semi-social, even maybe tennis club, or maybe that's not the best example. Maybe an Asian cultural club, or some sort of, if you're not Asian, maybe some sort of charitable club. And even if you don't want to commit to some sort of charity club, like a street cleanup club, I mean, there's hundreds of clubs where I go to at college. Even if you don't want to commit, at least go to your first meeting and be under the premise that you're there just to gain information. And at this club, I want you to socialize with people and start talking. And the big difference between passively letting life go by and passively hoping your social circle will net you friends, and actively approaching with your social circle. And I'm assuming you guys you're starting off bare, so this is why you're going to this club. You go to this club, I want you to approach people, and if you're scared of rejection, you have to bite the bullet and be man up and do it. And just go out and talk to people and man up, okay? If you're rejected, so what? Move on. There's so many people in this world. You got to have this mentality to do this sort of thing. And you want to go out and approach people and actively see who will be your friend. And from there, I mean, you don't have to be super direct and say, will you be my friend? Will you be my friend? You can start indirectly and say, talk about the club and stuff, and then just keep going and you have to man up. And even if you're a girl, you have to man up, and that is how you gain friends. And through these friends, you want to interact with them, analyze if they're good friends. If they're not, you kind of want to drop them. If they're unhealthy friends, you want to drop them. But if they are good friends, stay with them, establish a good relationship, keep in contact, and through this way, you will gain a sort of network. And to increase this network, you want to either join more clubs or go to more social events, such as other things, maybe a party, but again, that's kind of far off. There might not be a chance you'll be invited. So just any sort of social event you can get your hands on, and that could be just another club event or sorority or fraternity event, or if you're not into that sort of stuff, something else, maybe just like a sort of classwork get together. And I would at least advise you to try out clubs. I'm not really a frat guy, and I've at least even tried out the frats. I've gone to rushes and stuff like that. So my biggest thing is at least try it. Like, once you've tried it, you have no excuses. I've tried it and I didn't like it, but I tried again just in case, and I didn't like it, and then I tried one more time. So for you to not even try it once, you have no excuses. You have to at least try these social events, and with it you have to start approaching. Now this is the general scheme for people who are starting off bare. Now if you already have like a social group to begin with, or you have connections to parties and stuff, you kind of want to go out of your way and actively talk to people. Now the difference is you have to have some sort of social intelligence. So you can't just go up, like especially in crowded places at a social event, and be like, will you be my friend? Will you be my friend? Will you be my friend? Because that will dramatically and progressively lower your chances continuously over time. I would advise you to just sit back and man up, but eventually you have to man up and go out and keep socializing with new people at these social events. You have to man up. If you get rejected, so what? Move on to the next group. Rejection is not that embarrassing, and you honestly don't have to play your cards perfectly. That's another big misconception. If you screw up and get rejected, honestly, it's never happened to me, and I doubt it'll happen to you, where the entire room just freezes and points at you and says, ha 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 ha. In fact, that's kind of what I thought when I first went into these kind of things, and I was scared crazy, and I was scared so badly, and I still did it. And yeah, I blew myself out. I got sort of rejected from this set of girls, but did the whole room freeze and point at me and laugh? No. In fact, most of them were so involved in themselves that they didn't notice. In fact, I don't think anyone else other than those girls noticed. So a lot of times, most people are, I would say 90% to 100% of people are just so interested or involved in themselves that they don't notice what's going on in their surroundings. And so you have to have social intelligence with this. You can't just go at it crazily and just without any sort of intelligence and just be like, will you be my friend? Do you want to talk to me? And then just get rejected over and over and keep doing the same thing. You can't do that. But at the same time, you can't sit in the back and just like do nothing and just passively hope that you will make friends this way. And I would say the only exception would be if you are a good-looking girl, because I mean they're just very lucky. They were blessed when they were born, and therefore they have a sort of genetic advantage in a way, and so they can just walk into a room, especially if they know their fashion sense and they dress well, and people will approach them. So a lot of times, a lot of these good-looking girls, they've never really adopted any sort of social skill because they never had the need to. But as people age and their looks start to fade, they realize, uh-oh, what am I going to do? But maybe that's not the case. I mean, some of them live their whole lives without having to. But yeah, that would be the only exception. And some people they just walk into your room, they don't have to do anything. But on the other hand, there's a lot of people, maybe like you or me, who walk into there hoping they'll get the same reaction as a hot girl, and no one goes up to talk to you, no one does anything, and therefore you have to kind of go out of your way and approach people and talk to them and man up. And in all honesty, it's awesome. It's very admirable, very respected. It shows you have character. It shows like you've had tough times, and you're man enough, or you're cool enough to, you know, bypass them and find ways on your own. And people will see that, oh, this guy he knows how to approach people, and he's making an effort. He's not just scared and standing in a corner and just not willing to approach anyone. And so that is pretty much how I would say you can go at it and gain any sort of social circle. And I would say both methods work, but just a little bit more advice for people in college. I really advise you to just look at all the avenues for social events if you're struggling with making friends and stuff. So maybe in terms of, I don't know, you don't know how to make friends, and you just go to class and then you go home, and then you're in your dorm all day by yourself playing Minecraft, and you're very depressed or lonely. Look to the avenues, and I'm just going to list them here. You have clubs. These are open to everyone, highly accessible. You have fraternities, sororities, less accessible, but at least you can go to the rush events. Those are open to everyone, and some of them are honors or academic ones. So if you're scared about the social ones and you think you don't fit in with the buff Caucasian frat guys, go to some of the nerdy academic frat or sorority rush events, and those are highly accessible. Then you got the parties or the bars. Parties, not as accessible. You have to have connections. Personally, they're overrated, okay? They're overrated, and a lot of people there, a lot of guys, they don't really have any sort of real skill with girls. They drink alcohol, they rely on the alcohol to approach, and their approaches are sloppy, and it's simply a matter of having the lifestyle, like having connections to get to the event, and just showing up, because that's enough for them, and the girls will just naturally attract to them. But that's the majority of these sort of party events. So if you don't have access, that's fine, but if you do, there's your option. And again, I'm not saying that's all party guys. I mean, some of them do have skill with girls, and I don't know, I just think it's a very trashy sort of environment, you know, with the alcohol and the beer and then the drunk girls, and it's just like I don't really enjoy it. And a lot of the quality girls I see there, who might have maybe 10 out of 10 on the looks, and I would deem like high quality, awesome girls, my respect for them gets lowered dramatically, as well as my attraction for them, when I see like how trashy and drunk they are, and how horrible they're looking, or how like their makeup's all messed up, and then their face is all, their hair is all wet and sloppy. It's just horrible. Parties, So another thing is just class lectures. Approaching and talking to girls or stuff in class. Just sit down next to one, man up. That's the whole thing about it. You have to man up. Approach a girl or guy and just sit there, and then like talk to them and approach them and chat them up. And the biggest thing is, honestly, you could get rejected. That has happened before. Is it a big deal? No. Just realize it's not that embarrassing, and if they don't like you, so be it. And you have to move on and try some other sets in the classroom. In fact, a lot of these classrooms have 300, 400 kids, so most of them don't really care or notice. I would say 99% of them, maybe 100% don't notice if you get rejected In fact, you don't even have to lay it out there. You just have to go up, talk about class, and then go from there. It's a very soft sort of rejection, maybe not even rejection. You might just sense changes in body language, and that is how you can meet people in class. So that's another option. And yeah, just naturally, through your dorms, if you live in a dorm, through the people on your floor, through people you interact with wherever you go in college. And I would say don't lose sight of the fact that the main reason you're there is to study and learn and get good grades. So don't beat yourself up and be too depressed if you're not getting results or you're not seeing results. That shouldn't be your main concern about college. If you lose sight of it, then you're not so far from the people who have lost complete sight of it and just think partying and hooking up is the most important thing of college. And it's not, because 4 years is very short, and in time, once, like, I'm already a senior and it seemed to have passed by very quickly, and you realize, like, if you invest too much time in partying or bars or stuff like that, which I never did, then you kind of realize, wow, I don't have much to show once I get out of college. So ignore those people who think that they're like the kings or the top of the campus, because I mean, college is a short time, and in the long run there are more important things. And a lot of these people will walk out of college and realize, wow, I'm no longer the king of the campus anymore. And so that's what I have to say for that. And so yeah, if you guys are still watching after 25 minutes, thank you so much for watching this whole thing. It shows that you have a lot of respect for me, and or you just really like this content and you like the information, which I really thank you guys for watching this entire thing for, and staying tuned for this entire thing and soaking up this information. But yeah, those are the avenues that I recommend for college, and I really encourage you to leave a comment for discussion, explanation, and most importantly, advice. If you had advice, anything I didn't say, anything I didn't do, anything that you think is unique, not generic, because a lot of people will post generic advice that's probably pretty obvious, even though they deem it not to be. It can be pretty obvious at times. So look to advice that can be very useful, that me or anyone else reading this could benefit a lot from. How did you get by in college? What if you are someone who has few friends to start off with, or you just hate all the clubs on the clubs list and you're not interested at all? So that's it for this video. As always, like, rate, comment, and subscribe. It's completely free. Just hit the button below to subscribe for more videos. I'll see you guys later. Peace.